Okay, people, let's do another rectangle problem, and this time dive into finding x, y, and let's find the perimeter of the rectangle. This is sort of like using geometry to kind of set up what's equivalent, what's not equivalent, what's related in the geometry world, and then kind of using that and using some algebra to kind of solve for x and y. So, how do we do that? Well, you really have to know the properties of a rectangle. And once you look at a picture like this, all the geometry kind of has to just pop off the page and start screaming at you. What do you have to see? There are all the properties of a rectangle. Both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. Both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. Both pairs of opposite angles are congruent. The diagonals bisect each other. Also in a rectangle, the diagonals are congruent. That's an important clue. So all four of those are equal. What else do we see? We see right triangles. These angles are right angles in here. But what we should see in order to solve this problem, in order to solve x and y, and if you notice, we have several expressions for x. Notice we have an expression up here talking about the side, but then I'm going to use a different color because this expression for x talks about an angle, and this expression for x talks about an angle. Well, how are they all related to be able to write an equation for x in here? So I want you to think about how these two angles are related in the center here. These two. This blue angle and that blue angle. Well, that's right, they're vertical angles. And so if one of them is x plus 40, the other one has to be x plus 40. That's nice to know. We're still not there yet. What we need to see right now is this triangle in here is very special. And what are we seeing? Well, that's an isosceles triangle. Well, that makes this one of the base angles, and if that's one of the base angles, then we can conclude that that's the other base angle, and if one of them is 2x minus 10, the other one has to be 2x minus 10. And so now I think we have enough information to use to write an equation using x, using one more piece of geometry. And what's the geometry we should all see is all three of those expressions there in that bottom little blue triangle, they have to add up to be 180. So let's write that. We got 2x minus 2x minus 10 plus 2x minus 10 plus x plus 40 equals 180. So let's keep on solving in here. Let's see, 2x and 1x, that's 5x, and then we got minus 10 and plus 40, that's a plus 20, and so we have 5x equals 160, and x equals, I believe, 32. And if x is 32, we can use that information to find y. Now let's explore where y is. Well, y has expressions over here. That's a side. Keep in mind the vocabulary, that's a side. And y is an angle over here. And you should point out that these two angles right here, together, they're complementary. Why? Because that entire angle is 90 degrees. Now slow down for a second. These two angles are not 45 and 45. They could be, but in most rectangles they're not. But we do know they are complementary angles. So don't just go run off to Dodge and just assume they are congruent angles, because in this case they're not. So what do we want to do? We want to take our 32 and plug it in to find that angle down in here. And what do we see? Well, 2 times 32 is 64. 64 minus 10 is 54. So this angle right here is 54 degrees. That implies that one is 54 degrees. And now we should know what y is, because 90 minus 54 is what? 70, no, that is 36. That is 36 degrees. And how do we know that? It's because 54 and 36 add up to be 90. And so if that is 36, we just found y. Y turns out to be 36. That's the value of y. So we're almost done. We had to find x and y. And now we want to put it all together and fill in the blanks to find the perimeter. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, now since we know an expression for that side, it's 2x, we can now deduce what that side is going to be. That side is going to be 2 times whatever x is. So this side is 64 units. And the one on the bottom is going to be 64. And how do we know that? Well, both pairs of opposite sides are going to be congruent. Not all the sides are the same, just the opposite ones are the same. If one's 64, the other one's 64. Now let's find the other side in here. Well, this expression is 3y. Well, 3 times 36, I think that's 108. 36 times 3 is 18, carry the 1, 8, and 108. So this side is 108. And if that one's 108, that means this one is 108. So now I'm going to highlight in yellow all 4 of these sides in here. And how do you find the perimeter? Well, you're going to find the perimeter by adding all those up. Well, 64 and 64 is 128. 108 and 108 is 216. Let's do a little arithmetic in here. We got 14, carry the 1, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's 344 units. The perimeter is 344 miles or feet. We're not really sure, but since I didn't clarify if it's inches, feet, or miles, that's 344 units. So altogether, we have used several geometry concepts: isosceles triangles, right triangles, vertical angles, to set up the angle sum theorem to set up an equation to solve for x, and we found x, and we back substituted. Then we explored what y is using complementary angles. And once we found y, we were able to now back substitute one more time into the sides and conclude that the perimeter is 344. Okay, all right, check out the next video.